They wanted control. You became free. They thought the darkness would swallow you. They believed the pressure would crush your spine, bend your will, silence your voice. They watched as the walls closed in around you and whispered to each other. This is where they break. But they didn't understand one thing. They never did. You weren't trapped. You were being forged. They threw you into hell, not realizing hell was the place where you would remember who you are. And right now, as you listen to this, feel it. That tightness in your chest. That memory you try not to revisit. That moment when you realized the world you trusted was not built to protect you, but to control you. They wanted obedience. They wanted silence. They wanted you small enough to manage, weak enough to command, afraid enough to obey. But something inside you refused to die. They had expectations for you. They always do. They expected you to stay dependent, to keep asking for permission, to live on approval like oxygen, to doubt yourself so deeply that their voice became your inner voice. They expected you to shrink when they raised their voice, to fold when they applied pressure, to apologize for your existence, your ambition, your hunger for more. They expected you to survive, but never awaken, because survival is safe for them. Survival is quiet. Survival doesn't challenge the throne. They expected you to live half a life, a controlled life, a life where your dreams stayed in cages and your potential stayed asleep. But reality had other plans, because while they were watching for your collapse, you were learning how to breathe in chaos. While they were tightening the chains, you were studying the locks. While they were counting your failures, you were counting lessons. They mistook your silence for weakness. They mistook your patience for surrender. They mistook your pain for defeat. They didn't see the fire growing behind your eyes. And there was a phase they'll never understand, the phase where you were alone with yourself. No applause, no reassurance, no one coming to save you. Just long nights where your thoughts screamed louder than any enemy ever could. Just mornings where getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. Just moments where you questioned everything, your worth, your strength, your direction. And yet, you stayed. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. You stayed when quitting would have been justified. You stayed when bitterness tried to move in and make a home inside your heart. You adapted. You learned how to move in the dark, how to listen more than you spoke, how to turn pain into awareness, and awareness into power. They broke you down into pieces, not knowing you would rebuild yourself with sharper edges and deeper roots. Every tear taught you clarity. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every loss stripped illusions from your eyes. You stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question changed everything. You walked through fire, and instead of burning, you learned its language. You learned that pain is not an enemy, it's a messenger. You learned that fear only has power when you refuse to face it. You learned that control only works on those who still need permission. You began to see clearly, not the way the world wanted you to see, but the way truth demands to be seen. You saw how manipulation hides behind concern, how control disguises itself as love, how people who fear their own emptiness try to own your fullness, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your spine straightened, your voice returned, your energy shifted. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped shrinking to fit spaces designed to limit you. You stopped negotiating with those who only valued your obedience. That's when the balance began to change. They felt it before they understood it. A shift, a disturbance, a loss of grip. The same people who once spoke over you started watching you closely. The same voices that dismissed you began asking questions. The same hands that pulled your strings suddenly found nothing to hold. Confusion crept into their confidence. Because control only works when you're predictable, and you were no longer predictable. Did they really think you'd stay broken forever? Did they believe pain would erase you instead of refine you? Did they imagine you would beg to return to the cage once you tasted freedom? They saw it in your calm. That unnerved them. You weren't loud. You weren't desperate. You weren't seeking revenge. You were grounded, and nothing scares controlling minds more than someone who no longer needs their approval. They started projecting, questioning, undermining, but their tactics felt outdated because you had evolved beyond the battlefield they still lived on. You entered a new phase, not of survival, but of mastery. This was the era where your peace became louder than their chaos, where your indifference spoke more powerfully than your anger ever could. You built boundaries that didn't require explanation. You made choices that didn't need validation. You walked away without slamming doors, because you no longer needed to prove a point. That's a level of freedom few ever reach. You crowned yourself in silence, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Every step forward felt lighter, every decision clearer, every breath deeper. You weren't rushing anymore. You weren't chasing approval. You weren't proving your worth. You knew it. And knowing changes the way you move through the world. Storms still came, but they no longer shook you, because storms don't scare those who have survived hurricanes. You became still in moments that once would have broken you. You observed instead of reacted. You responded instead of exploded. They mistook your calm for weakness again. They never learn. But this time, you didn't need them to, because your power no longer required an audience. You carried yourself like someone who had already won, not because the world bowed, but because you no longer bowed to it. And that was the ultimate shift. Because by now, they feel the distance. Not physical distance, but energetic separation. You're no longer accessible to manipulation, no longer reachable through guilt, no longer controllable through fear. They try old keys on new locks. Nothing opens. They watch as you build a life that doesn't include their permission. They hear your name spoken with respect instead of pity. They see opportunities gravitate toward you, not because you begged, but because you became aligned. And some of them regret it, others resent it, but all of them feel it. You are no longer theirs to command. This is the moment where everything becomes clear. You didn't escape control by fighting harder. You escaped by becoming freer, by knowing yourself, by trusting yourself, by choosing yourself. You stopped giving your power to people who never deserved it. You stopped waiting for permission that was never coming. You stopped dimming your light for the comfort of those who feared brightness. You became sovereign, untouchable in ways that matter. They may still talk, they may still watch, they may still wish you had stayed small, but it's too late. Because once freedom is tasted, it cannot be forgotten. So stand there, in this moment, feel your breath, feel your strength, feel the calm authority in your chest. You are not who you were when they tried to control you. You are not who they expected you to be. You are not defined by what they took, said, or denied. You are defined by what you survived, by what you learned, by what you became. They wanted control. You became free. And freedom is the one thing they can never take from you again. They never expected this version of you, this version that walks without fear, this version that no longer looks back for permission, this version that understands one brutal truth. Control only works on those who doubt themselves. And you stopped doubting. You remember the days when your mind was a prison, when every decision felt heavy, when every step forward came with guilt stitched into it. They planted that guilt carefully. They watered it with fear. They fed it lies until it grew roots inside you. You need us. You can't survive alone. You'll fail without our guidance. And for a while, you believed them. But belief can be rewritten, one silent night at a time, one painful realization at a time, one moment of courage at a time. You began noticing patterns, how their support came with strings, how their love came with conditions, how their help always had a price, your freedom. That's when you chose differently, not loudly, not dramatically, but decisively. You chose yourself. And they felt that choice before you spoke it. Because when someone stops needing validation, the manipulators panic. When someone stops explaining themselves, the controllers lose power. When someone stops reacting, the game collapses. You became unpredictable, not reckless, but awake. You stopped arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped defending your growth to those threatened by it. You stopped lowering your standards to keep peace with chaos, and something powerful happened. Peace found you instead. Not the loud kind, not the fake smiles kind, but the deep, unshakable calm that comes from alignment. You were no longer at war with yourself. And they tried one last time, one last guilt trip, one last manipulation, one last attempt to pull you back into the old version of you. But that version no longer exists. You looked at them and felt nothing, no anger, no fear, no need to prove anything, just clarity. And clarity is dangerous to those who survive on confusion. You realized something profound. You don't need revenge when you have freedom. You don't need closure when you have self-respect. You don't need their apology when you've reclaimed your power. That realization closed the chapter. Now you move differently. Your walk is slower, but your presence is heavier. Your words are fewer, but they land deeper. Your energy is protected. You choose where you go. You choose who has access. You choose what you tolerate. And most importantly, you choose who you become next. They still talk about you sometimes, in rooms you no longer enter, with minds that still haven't evolved, but you're too busy building to listen. You're building a life that doesn't require escape, a life that doesn't demand survival mode, a life rooted in truth. Look at you now, the same person they underestimated, the same soul they tried to cage, the same heart they tried to exhaust, still standing, still rising, still free. They wanted obedience. You chose authenticity. They wanted silence. You found your voice. They wanted control. You claimed sovereignty. And here's the truth they'll never accept. You didn't win by defeating them. You won by outgrowing them. So if you're listening to this right now, let it sink in. You were never weak. You were never lost. You were never broken beyond repair. You were becoming. And becoming is painful. Becoming is lonely. Becoming demands everything. But on the other side of becoming is freedom. They wanted control. You became free. And this time, you're never going back.